A sutra is an aphorism or a collection of aphorisms in the form of a manual or, more broadly, a text in Hinduism or Buddhism. Literally it means a thread or line that holds things together and is derived from the verbal root siv, meaning to sew. The word sutra was very likely meant to apply quite literally to these texts, as they were written down in books of palm leaves sewn together with thread. This distinguishes them from the older sacred Vedas, which until recently were only memorized, never committed to paper. In ancient Indian literature, sutra denotes a distinct type of literary composition, based on short aphoristic statements, generally using various technical terms. This literary form was designed for concision, as the texts were intended to be memorized by students in some of the formal methods of scriptural and scientific study. Since each line is highly condensed, another literary form arose in which commentaries on the sutras were added, to clarify and explain them. For discussion of the literary form for sutras, their terse nature as a summary of ideas for memorization, and the rise of the commentorial literary form as an adjunct to sutras, see Tubb Boose 2007, pages 1-2. In Brahmin lineage, each family is supposed to have one Godra and one sutra, meaning that a certain Veda is treasured by this family in way of learning by heart. One of the most famous definitions of a sutra in Indian literature is itself a sutra and comes from the Valapurana. In Jainism, sutra or sura refers to canonical sermons of Mahavira contained in the Jainagamas and to some later normative texts. In Buddhism, sutra or sutta refers mostly to canonical scriptures, many of which are regarded as records of the oral teachings of Gautama Buddha. The Pali form of the word, sutta, is used exclusively to refer to the scriptures of the early Pali Canon, the only texts recognized by Theravada Buddhism as canonical. In Chinese, these are known as C-paragraph. These teachings are assembled in part of the Tripura to the first, also known as, which is called the Sutta Pitaka. There are many important or influential Mahayana texts, such as the Platform Sutra and the Lotus Sutra, that are called sutras despite being attributed to much later authors. Some scholars consider that the Buddhist use of sutra is a faulty Sanskritization of the Prakrit or Pali word sutta, and that the latter actually represented Sanskrit sakta, well-spoken, good news. The early Buddhist sutras do not present the aphoristic, nearly cryptic nature of the Hindu sutras, even though they also have been designed for mnemonic purposes in an oral tradition. On the contrary, they are most often lengthy, with many repetitions which serve the mnemonic purpose of the audience. They share the character of sermons of good news with the Jaina Sutras, whose original name of Zaya in Ardhamagadi can derive from Sanskrit sakta, but hardly from sutra. Sutras primarily associated with Hinduism. Vedanga Chandas, Jyotisha, Kalpa, Smarta Sutras, Srauta Sutras, performance of sacrifices, Samaya Karika or Dharma Sutras, Grhya Sutras, covering domestic life, Sulbas Sutras, architecture of sacrificial area. Nyarikta, Shiksha, Vyakarana, Ashtadhyayi, discussing grammar. Hindu philosophy Brahma Sutras, Narada Bhakti Sutra, Nyaya Sutras, Purvamimamsa Sutras, Sankara Sutra, Shiva Sutras, Vaisheshika Sutra, Yoga Sutras. Sutras primarily associated with Buddhism. Sutras primarily associated with Jainism. Jain philosophy Akaranga Sutra, Kalpa Sutra, Tattvartha Sutra. Other sutras, Jesus Sutras. See also, Ananda Sutram, Heart Sutra, Kama Sutra, Sastra, Shobhas Sutras, Smriti, Sutra copying, Sutram, Chinese Buddhist canon, Tibetan Buddhist canon, Lotus Sutra, Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, list of Majjhima Nikaya suttas. Notes. References, Arthur Anthony MacDonald. The Sutras. A History of Sanskrit Literature. New York, D. Appleton and Company. Monia Williams, Monia. A Sanskrit-English Dictionary. Delhi, Motilal Banarsidass. Pages 1241, Tubb, Gary A. Boose, Emory. A Scholastic Sanskrit, a Handbook for Students. New York, Columbia University Press. ISBN 978-0-9753734-7-7. External links: Buddhist scriptures in multiple languages, more Mahayana sutras, the Hindu Vedas, Upanishads, Puranas, and Vedanta sacred-texts.com, a modern sutra, digital Sanskrit Buddhist canon, Ida B. Wells Memorial Sutra Literary.